everybody, it's Safi and Marco, Dish Out on the Movies. Well, today we are going to rank all of the Texas Chainsaw movies.
Including the newest
one.
one. What's the newest one called, Safi, anyway? What's it called?
Oh, God.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You know, like the first one.
Oh, okay. Well, to me, they're just about, it should be Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1, and then 2, then 3, then, because that's what they are, but they are different, like the 3D. It's especially 3D.
Give it a subtitle. Let's come up with a subtitle for the new one.
Better than ever.
Oh, yeah, I have a subtitle already. I already came up with one. I'll announce it at the very end.
Okay, well, we are ranking them, so there's 9. And I'm doing the bottom 4, and Marco is doing the rest. And what that means is I'll do most of the talking, but he gave me some quotes or some information about what he thought about each movie that I'm doing, and we pretty much agreed on everything. I mean, there really actually was no disagreement about where everything was placed, because for some it's just pretty obvious, and others, I mean, there really was no fudging. Sometimes when you do these ranking lists of movies, you have a problem like, oh, there's 2 really good ones, or there's 2 really bad ones, and you just don't know which to put in the next in line, and there was nothing like that here. So we were very much in agreement. So I'll start with I'm doing, we're going from the bottom to the top, okay, which makes sense. And the first one is number...
No, not the first one. This is the worst.
Well, number 9, which means it's the worst. I'll explain that. And so we totally agreed. I mean, oh, God. The worst one was Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. And Marco wanted to make sure that everybody knew there was a few good things about it.
Well, we're in agreement about this, so you're not really supposed to mention that at all.
Well, then why did you tell me?
Because because we're in agreement. So why would you say that I said it?
Okay, well, anyway, this is the worst piece of crap on the planet. This movie. This is what I say. I thought it was a mockery of the whole horror series. And I don't think it should ever been made. And I guess if it hadn't, there'd been another one to take its place. But I mean, this is really the worst thing ever. And there was no disagreement whatsoever. I mean, when we saw it, after it was over, we were like, oh my God, what the hell? And so that's it. It's just awful, and I wouldn't even recommend it. But I guess if you wanted to have a basis of comparison and watch every single one, like, when you have a collection, you're collecting the remembrances of each movie and how they stack up against each other, well, go ahead.
I do love the poster where they parody the Breakfast Club and like some other posters. So like, I wouldn't mind having the poster for the movie, but the movie itself was trash.
Horrible. Okay, now the next one would be number 8.
You didn't even mention the stuff I wrote.
You told me not to.
No, I just said not to say that I said it, because we're both in agreement.
Okay,
we should both agree about it. God,
there's
Safi.
A good main character, and Chop Top is a standout. And the scene where the side character is skinned and he helps the main character before he dies is a good thing. It's a good part of the movie. So, okay, I want to go on to number 8. Number 8 is Texas Chainsaw Massacre 4.
The Next Generation.
And the good things about it are the ending scene with Sally, the cameo of her. It's really good. And we thought that I just think because it's one of his first movies, Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger are both Texans, and they were both in the movie, which to me makes it very distinct from all of the rest, because they have both won Oscars for other movies later on in their careers. So I think that's pretty interesting. I mean, if you think about other movies and you think about lesser roles and where the actors were in these like meaningless or just crappy roles, well, you never know what can happen later on in their careers.
And I'll say this, that's why horror is an underappreciated genre, is because back in the 80s and 90s, I can guarantee you every single star of today was in a horror movie in one way or another, in a small role or a big role. And just like with Critters 4, I believe. Guess who was in that one, Safi?
I don't know. I've seen it, but I don't
Oscar... No, you haven't. Oscar winner Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh.
That was his first movie, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
And so, all of these actors, they all start out in horror movies, and then they're ungrateful and they don't mention them or talk about them because it's horror.
Well, I don't know why they don't, because I believe, now, Renee Zellweger is another story. I don't think she did much in the movie, and I just don't think she had the part to do it.
She's such a Zellweger.
No, I just don't think, Matthew McConaughey, now, on the other hand, he had this, I thought he got to act like a crazed maniac.
Yeah.
And I think he enjoyed himself. He just loved doing it. It was so, he could just act like a nut. And she played a victim. And, what can you do with being a victim other than screaming or just being a victim? And that just, there's not, it's a lot, I think it's a lot easier or a lot more fun to be a crazed maniac. And I just thought that was fun. And on the whole, I don't think there was much of a story, and I think it was just a fun time for Matthew and the other villains to overact and play around. So that was number 8. Okay, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 4. And I guess by the way, didn't you say Michael Bay made this movie?
No, Safi.
Okay, well, whoever made it...
Don't do that.
Okay, well, whoever made it, I guess, is from Texas. So, since
What?
Renee... That's what you
talking
said.
No.
Okay, never mind. I thought they did. Okay.
Don't.
Number 7. I have 2 more, and this is next to the last. This is Texas Chainsaw 3D, where they had made, this was at a time where every single movie that was coming out, they were trying to turn it into a 3D. And I remember at the time, everybody, like the public, thought it was stupid because it wasn't meant to be that way. I mean, you see something 3D, you want to see something fun, things flying around, all kinds of stuff. And it wasn't, and so they decided, whoever made this movie, they were going to do the same thing. They were going to be part of the 3D. Well, now, since it's like on streaming services or whatever, you can't see 3D. You just have to watch it. Like I watched it on my phone, so there's nothing special. You can't see anything. You don't have the means to look at it in 3D. And I don't think, by the way, when both of us, when we watched it, we really didn't see much that would make it interesting enough to be 3D. So, really, there's not much to say that's a good thing in this movie.
It's a goofy, dumb movie.
it's a different premise, and I guess I'll just give them credit for that. One of at the beginning, when you have all this disaster, there's a baby that's the mother gets who's related to the family, the Sawyer family, the Texas Chainsaw guy's family. The mother gets killed or whatever, she's dying, and she has this baby, and these other people who are helping in the mob scene to destroy the family and the house and everything, they take the baby and they
Sophie,
raise the baby.
Don't go off script.
So
okay?
Anyway, that's what this is. It's a premise about somebody inheriting something, and it's this girl, and she comes back with her friends, and just a lot was wrong in this movie. There was missing information, and then you would see or hear something, and you go, really? Are you kidding me? Moments, and like, especially when at the end, since she's his cousin, Leatherface, and her, the girl who inherited this house from Verna, I guess, since she's his cousin, she hands this chain, or slides over this chainsaw to him to kill this guy, and said, "Do your thing, cuz." After he killed her friends,
all of her friends,
she went down there with her boyfriend, which he wasn't a boyfriend because he had sex with her, like, I guess was her best friend there.
Don't go off script.
And anyway, he killed them, and they were her best friends.
He has killed an indescribable amount of people, and this bitch, she's like, "Do you think, cuz?" And it's like, oh god, that is, and I'll say this, that is the worst moment of the entire series, by far. That is the worst thing. The actress didn't even want to say that line, and she told the producers, and these dipshit producers said, "But the movie's a comedy. We want it to be goofy and silly. We want to make a silly Texas Chainsaw movie."
Oh God,
It's so silly because we don't take horror seriously, because then we would get criticized by people, and we would actually have to make good movies and improve.
And I guess there was two other things. Is when the girl went down there with her friends, they come to this huge mansion, and it has every kind of thing, like it has a pool table and all these other things. I'm like, where did this woman get this money? And I'm thinking, well, because in the beginning, which is supposed to take place years ago, maybe they got a wrongful death suit, money from that or something. But there's no explanation.
There is. There's this little tiny... I saw a picture yesterday. I never saw this in the movie when I watched it. There is a framed picture of her and like a rich-looking guy to imply that, she married a rich guy.
Oh.
Like a little prop in the background to explain the backstory. That's always good when, instead of actually telling a story, you just let your little props in the background tell the story for you.
Well, as Marco said, that wasn't obvious to either of us, and I'm wondering through the whole movie, when they're in this place, where in the hell did she get the money? Because if you've seen any of the other movies, you don't see any evidence of this kind of money. Okay? So, the other thing was, they have a carnival scene where he goes running after her because he doesn't know they're related yet. And you have all these people, and he just looks at them, but he doesn't do anything. And I'm not that I want to see a lot of violence, but I mean, really? He's a serial killer and kills indiscriminately in every movie, and he doesn't touch anybody at the carnival. He's just looking for her.
Yeah.
And then you come, and then it gets worse, because when you see the movie we just saw, the new one that came out, and what happens in that, it even makes it look worse.
Well, and it's funny too, because it's actually a huge plot hole that the movie made for itself, because the movie tries to justify Leatherface's murders by saying he's just killing people so that they won't tell. They won't tell on him, and so that's why he chased after Sally. In the original movie, it's not because he's a crazy killer, it's because she's going to tell on him to somebody. And so now, with these people, Leatherface, he doesn't want them to tell. You know, he doesn't want all of her friends to tell, so that's why he kills them. But what's funny is that he walks into a carnival full of people, and he's not concerned that they're going to tell on him.
Yeah,
it's fucking retarded.
So it's another one of those moments, like I said, really? Are you kidding me? Moments. Okay, well, I think we're done with that one. And the last one I'm doing is number 6. And that was the movie Leatherface. And I'm honestly telling you, it was called Leatherface, which is weird. You know, not his name, but Leatherface. And now this is where Marco and I disagree. He thought the movie made a good case for the rednecks burning down their house and killing all the family.
Yeah,
even the
it really does.
And because Verna...
They're evil as hell, this
evil.
family.
And it's true, because Verna she has no thoughts of human beings as anybody but trash. And she is really a very good villain. And we both agree with that. And he also brought this up because I haven't seen enough of the movies. I think I may have seen one once, and that is that Leatherface is kind of reminded him of Jason Voorhees and his mother, the relationship between them and how she made such an impact on what he did.
This was totally like a Friday the 13th prequel fan film.
Yeah, so I can't speak to that, but anybody who's seen those movies might agree with that. And then there was a good set design, and there were good kills in this one. And I call this the origin story for the Texas guy, chainsaw murderer. And the movie had me fooled. For the whole time I thought they kind of had the kids, her kids, and you have to figure out, well, which one is Leatherface? So you think, oh, this certain one has to be him. And so the whole movie, I thought it was him. And he gets shot in the head and he's dead. I'm like, well, I guess that wasn't him. It was the other one. So I thought that was funny that the movie had me fooled. And I just thought there was some improbabilities and questionable storylines about them getting out of why they were even where they were to begin with, her kids, because they had done nothing wrong. They were victims, and they were being taken away from Verna, and they end up in this place. So to me, that just the whole idea that they're in this, it's kind of like a mental a health facility, and it's really for bad people. There are some bad kids there, and they would kill at the drop of a hat. And just there were some other storylines that were a little bit questionable, and so this is. But it wasn't too bad. It was different. That's the one thing. Every one of these movies is different. They have a different premise. And that starts off as a good thing because you're being creative, but then when they go from there, it can go up or it can go way down to stupid. So, okay, Marco, we'll be doing now the rest of them 5 through 1.
Well, I would phrase it a different way. I would phrase it like each movie makes up for the deficiency in the last one that it has.
Mm-hmm. Well, especially the new one.
Yeah. The number 5 is Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003. This is the remake and it is the only good thing Michael Bay has ever done. And that's part why it's good, is because somehow he had an idea and he said, let's make Leatherface scary again. And they made Leatherface scary again with this remake. The whole movie had an unnerving feeling. Leatherface was fantastic. I mean, he was basically like a monster. Like he wasn't even human at all. Like he had like this ghoulish face that looked, that creepy mask. It looked like a troll from a fairy tale. He had a really creepy outfit, and you did not want to mess with this Leatherface. Not only that, but the movie created a really desolate and lonely atmosphere by having this open, fieldy type of environment where it felt like you couldn't escape. And it felt like they basically entered the Twilight Zone. Instead, it's the Leatherface Zone. And you had all these family members. There were like 1 million family members in this movie. Everywhere you went, there's a family member. And that was creepy too, because it's almost like they have created their own world. Where they just kill people and eat them, and like it's really crazy. And of course, Safi loves the part where Leatherface actually cuts off the face of the main girl's boyfriend and wears it, and she said that was really scary and a good, an interesting vantage point of a horror, like a different type of horror.
Well, it was just visual. It was just pure visual. You didn't need words to describe it or anything. Like sometimes they have to explain everything in a movie. I can think of one we saw last year, and it's not necessary. The horror of it is seeing what happens, and I don't think we'd ever seen that before.
And not only that, but it also adds the best family member in the entire series, which is R. Lee Ermey as Sheriff Hoyt, quote-unquote sheriff, because he's not really a sheriff. He is the best member of the family. He is basically Leatherface, but he speaks. And he is hilarious, and you love to hate him. And he's such a fantastic character. And the scene where he is with the glasses guy and they're reenacting the hitchhiker's death is a really, really good scene. And it's like an actual scene with acting. Like in the series, there's not really a lot of great acting scenes where you have people who are doing their best and like putting on performances with dialogue, like an Oscar type of scene. This wasn't an Oscar-worthy scene, of course, but it was a really good acting scene, and the ending was really good. It was just a really good movie, and honestly, it's probably one of the best remakes of all time. It is just completely... It's so cool that like they went from 2, 3, and 4 to the remake, because that's exactly the direction where it needed to go, to make Leatherface scary, and to not make it like a comedy with jokes and with no body count at all.
And I just don't get that either. Why?
Number 4 is Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. I put this at number 4 partially because Safi loves it a lot. It's a fun but flawed ride. I'm just kidding. It's a good movie. I think the main reason I love it is because even though Sheriff Hoyt is the best family member, I think Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 has the best family. You have a family of distinct characters where you remember each character fully. You got Viggo Mortensen, he plays a cowboy. You got that one guy with the mechanical leg and he's like a perverted mechanic. You got the other guy who has the truck and he tows cars and gets the victims, all that. He has a hook hand. Didn't he have a hook hand?
Yeah, I
And
so.
you have all these unique characters that make up this crazy family, and it's just a good movie. Like, it's a good horror movie. You have the swampy environment, and it's a very good movie. I don't know what else to say about it because it's really not that deep. It's just a run-of-the-mill Texas Chainsaw movie, but it is good, and it's such a refreshing movie after part 2, which was a comedy. This was a horror movie for sure, and it was pretty dark, and the deaths were pretty good, and yeah, it was a good movie. I liked it. Honestly, I don't know why people don't. I think it's underrated too. I mean, people don't really give it enough credit, even though it has a lot of those elements that the later ones steal from it. Like the fact that you have all these family members spread around. You didn't know the cowboy was a family member. You didn't know the mechanic. And so the remake kind of took from that. And you wouldn't have the remake without this one. It has all these great elements. So, and it has Ken Faree, who plays the survivalist guy. He does a really good job at this heroic style character. Badass character comes in. He's a great character. And then number 3 is the original, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1974. And believe me, this movie is underrated. It is underappreciated because here's the thing. And it's really showing today. All these fanboys saying the new one is bad. Like, the new one sucks. The original is the best. Obviously, what's funny is that they say that now. But in a couple of months' time, all these same people are going to be saying the same thing about the original. They're going to be saying, it's okay, but I can't really watch it more than once. It's just gross, and it's scary, and it's very disturbing, and it just makes you feel dirty watching it. So I can't watch it more than once because I gotta watch my Halloween Kills. And so what's funny about that is that when people talk about this series, they're going to act like this movie is the one and only. Like it can't be replicated because it's the first one. But then when they look at it independently, they completely underrate it, undervalue it, and say that it's just meh. It's just okay. And then there's other people who say it's funny. They say it's bad. They say the characters suck. The characters are all one note. They say that the characters, I can't remember any of the characters' names. Can you name any of the characters, Safi? You can't name those characters because they're paper thin. But then those same people say that this one's the best one. Well, how could that be? You have all these flaws, and it's just, God, such a hypocritical fan base. Not the Texas Chainsaw fan base, but horror. Like the genre of horror has a hypocritical fan base. And last year, I really because I used to have that same opinion, and last year I watched this movie about 50 times. It really is a horror masterpiece. It is a classic. It is dark, disturbing. It is scary. And you would not want to watch it in the dark alone, because that's how creepy it is. It really is unnerving and uncomfortable. The characters are creepy, and they're unredeemable. They're pure evil, and they're crazy, and it's such a great movie. And there's just so many things to love about it. Like, how could you not love this movie? It was made for nothing. It's also a very inspirational type of indie film made for hardly anything by people who aren't even like big actors. It's not one of those movies that has a Leo DiCaprio. It's just a bunch of nobodies who became somebodies because they made this great movie. And you have Leatherface, who's one of the best villains of all time, But not only that, you have the hitchhiker, who is an insanely scary villain, and the scene with him in the car and the van at the beginning, that scene can never be replicated. I agree with that part, but at least they've never tried to replicate that. But that scene is an insanely classic scene. It is probably one of the best scenes of the series. And the cook is also a very creepy villain, obviously, because he comes off like a normal guy, and then you see he's not normal. He's also evil. And so I just, it's fantastic. And the way that it feels like a nightmare that never ends, and it just goes on and on and on. The only problems that I have personally are that, number one, the pacing in this movie is terrible. Okay? There are hardly any kills in this movie. They're not that good kills, and they're poorly paced. You know, you have like a couple of kills that happen, and then the rest of the movie there's no kills. It's very, very poorly structured in that way. And that is a problem for me. I mean, that is a problem. And also, it does not have good music. Okay? It has a couple of moments here and there with some okay music. Like, there's a part at the dinner scene where the music is kind of good. They have this creepy kind of music that plays, and she's screaming. But there's really not any good music. And so it has these two big glaring issues that are a problem. Number two is Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Beginning. This is the prequel to the remake. And what they did with the remake is that they heard the fans' criticisms, and then they made the prequel. Okay, so if you're complaining about the new one, at least complain constructively. Because they could still make a sequel, and they'll listen to your complaints and make a good one, like they did with this movie. Okay, because with the remake, people complained, and they listened, and they made that amazing prequel movie. Number one, Leatherface is fantastic in this movie. He is so strong and cool, and he's like a mythical character. He's even better than in the remake. And the kills are phenomenal. I mean, these are some of the best kills of the series. They're gory, they're bloody, and you know that they're good when you have these losers complaining. I mean, there were some people saying, the kills in this movie are too much. They're too much, Safi. The kills in a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie are too much for people. Like, F off. And so you have that. The pacing of the kills is good, too. It doesn't feel like there's long spaces where people don't get killed. It feels like there's a good... Because you know what? They don't get killed right off the bat, but they get tortured. And the torture is awesome because you got Arlie Ermy, who steals the show in this movie, and he almost outshines Leatherface himself.
Yep.
And he is basically the main villain, and he is so awesome. And he is just, it is so cool to watch him go from an evil farmer, an evil, desperate, hungry farmer, to a insane killer who pretends to be a sheriff. And it was funny, he killed the whole fucking sheriff's department. That was a great moment. And he's got so many great little one-liners like that. And, you know, how could you not love this movie? On top of that, you got characters who you actually like. So the same people who complain about the original movie, saying that the characters, you can't remember them. They're unmemorable characters. Well, in this movie, you got characters who are really good, and you actually really like them. You know, you have these two brothers. One of them wants to go to Vietnam. The other one doesn't want to go. And so you have drama with that. And you really don't want them to go. Because you know that, but it's weird because if they go to Vietnam, what's happening to them in Texas will happen to them in Vietnam. So it's like you really want these characters to get out of this and escape. And then the two girl characters are pretty good too. I mean, they're both pretty. The blonde is pretty smart, and she tries to escape at some points, and so that was cool to see them try to escape instead of just, with Pam. The actress who played Pam in the original, she claims that the character, Safi, you're not going to believe this. She
No.
she claims that she claims that the character Pam in the original movie, after she got put on a meat hook, she jumped off the meat hook while Leatherface wasn't watching, and then she ran out the back door and escaped.
Oh my God! Really?
I mean, that's just. And at least in this movie, the female characters actually do smart things to try to escape. And also, you get to see Leatherface in full gory detail, carving a guy's face off and putting it on. Fantastic masks in this movie. It starts off where he's got half of a face mask, and it's a really cool, gothic mask that makes him look really creepy, even though you see over half of his face, which people would complain about if they did that with Michael Myers. But it works really well here. And then the second face mask is even better, where it's a full face. It's the boyfriend's face yet again. So this Leatherface, he takes pleasure in killing people's friends and then wearing their faces right in front of them. And also, it does not make up with the music. That is the one issue. The music is trash, as usual with the series. Number one, Safi, you want to wake up? Number one is Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022.
Yep.
And I know that's going to piss off a lot of people, which is good.
Care.
I don't care either, because that's what I thought.
Me too.
And I watched it a second time, and I still think that.
And I watched all those other movies just this week and little last week, and I can see the differences. And I also have seen the Halloween movies that they have put out the last few years, and I can tell these people I appreciate what they did. They looked at what other people did in their own series and in other ones, and they said, no way am I making those similar mistakes. And they changed it, and it made it better. And you don't have to do a lot sometimes to make something better. It's just little tweaks here and there. And so, yes, Marco and I are in full agreement that this latest one that just came out yesterday is the best one of the series.
And Safi just did a little head nod. She was like, what were you doing that, Safi? Were you like...
Well, it's
like a little nod of victory.
I don't like this fake stuff where people, they'll say something is good because they think everybody else is going to say that it's good, and they just stick with it even though it isn't good and they know better. So... And this is definitely a lot better. If you've watched, now, maybe some people haven't watched all the movies, or they watched a couple, but if you watch all of them, and then this one, the latest one, you'll see what I'm saying. And maybe you won't agree. Not everybody agrees on everything, and I know that, but still.
That's fine. Just be consistent, because I saw some idiot today, and she complained about how, well, I can't say actually because it's a spoiler, but she complained about an element from this movie, and the same element is something that she loved in Halloween 2018. And I just thought, it just shows hypocritical.
That is hypocritical.
But this movie, I said I came up with a subtitle for it. This movie should be called Remember Hannibal? The Hannibal series where Hannibal says, eat the rude, because he hates rude people. He says, eat the rude, and that became a hashtag. People wear shirts that say, eat the rude. Well, this movie should be called Texas Chainsaw Massacre Eat the Woke. Because in this movie, it really fools you. Because the first 10 minutes are trash. It starts off with these idiots, these young losers who want to come to this ghost town and ruin it. And it's literally like in South Park, the City People episode that just came out. You have these dumb city people coming to a ghost town, and they want to ruin it, they want to change it and make it a feminist utopia. And Leatherface doesn't like that. And so that's the movie. And I don't know how you couldn't love that. I mean, it is fan-fucking-tastic. It improves on every single element that's lacking in the series. Well, number one, the kills. The pacing of the kills. This movie has a ton of kills, and they're probably the bloodiest, most violent kills in the series. And that is really, really good, because I was worried about that since this is a modern horror movie. And usually with modern horror movies, there's no violence at all. Because you'll have idiots who complain and say that it's too violent. It's too... Because that happened with The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead had a season 7 premiere episode, and people literally complained that it was too violent, Safi. I mean, it's just...
The Walking Dead?
Yeah, they were mad. They got really upset. And so that's what happens nowadays. But this movie decided, let's go full throttle and make it the most gruesome, brutal movie of the series. Not only that, but Leatherface is fantastic as well. He's a great character because you really understand his motivations, and you understand why he's killing people. I mean, when you think about it, in the first movie, he really wasn't a fully... He wasn't really into killing. He was just killing because he had to. Because people were invading his house, he'd kill people that came in. His family made him kill people, so it made sense that now he's just living in this ghost town, but then people come in and they do some things, and he's like, I'm not going to take this crap. And he is awesome. I mean, this is oh look, there's Kitty. This is an awesome movie. Not only that, but the music. No other movie in the series has had a good score, a good soundtrack. This is the first movie in the series out of 9 movies to have good music. It has a consistent score. It has a fully developed score. Music for the whole movie. It is fantastic music. It is creepy music. It's very visceral music that really fits the scenes, and especially the bus scene. And spoiler alert, the bus scene where Leatherface massacres an entire bus full of people. It is basically probably one of the best scenes in horror history, and it is right up there with Michael Myers killing a room full of doctors in Halloween 6. And that's another thing, is that this movie is definitely like Halloween 6, the producer's cut. That is what's good about this movie. It's just so good. I will say, too, the main 2 characters, they're good because one of them, she has an extra layer to her character that isn't present really with any character in any movie around. She was a victim of a school shooting. And the fact that they did that was really, really cool, because that's something you never see. And then her sister, she's a great character too, because she starts off like this woke feminazi bitch who it's like, yeah, I'd love to see her get killed in this movie by Leatherface. But she actually changes. She has a character arc. Like, imagine that, a character arc in a Texas Chainsaw movie. Imagine that. So this is the best movie of the series. I don't care. It improves on every element. And it's also realistic too. Like, I was worried that with the return of an actress pretending to be Sally, I was worried that it would be unrealistic, but it's not. it's extremely realistic. Leatherface is acting like an old man. At one point he's on his knees and he has trouble getting up, standing up. A lot of other times he throws stuff at people so that he doesn't have to charge at them. But that's cool because it actually shows that like they're thinking about that. They're not just treating him like a supernatural being for the most part. And then Sally, her character, she's actually pretty good. I mean, she's not an invincible Mary Sue like Laurie Strode in the Halloween series and her whole family. You know, she's actually a pretty great character, and the fact that they made her a Texas Ranger, that's cool too. You know, people said it's copying Halloween, but to me, I think that it's more so copying the second one, because in the second one you had, what's that guy's name? That guy from Blue Velvet. I can't remember. Dennis Hopper. He played like a ranger in that movie who's been hunting Leatherface ever since it happened because Franklin is his nephew. In this movie, she's a ranger who's been hunting Leatherface ever since it happened. So I thought that that's really good. I mean, it's not really copying Halloween at all. In fact, it's actually improving Halloween 2018. And the ending is great because I love it because although I didn't want a certain character to die, well, I'll just spoil it because I'll just say spoilers for this movie. The main character, the bigger sister, her face looks exactly like kinda the face that Leatherface wore in the original movie when he puts on the mask with the curly hair and the makeup to look like a woman. As soon as I saw her face, I knew if I was Leatherface, I'd want to kill her too, because I could take off her face and have a mask like I did in 1974. So when he kills her at the end, that got me really excited because I thought, okay, if they make a sequel, he's going to take off that face and make a mask that looks like that mask. So, Safi, do you have anything else to say after you've taken a little nap?
I haven't taken any nap.
You have.
No, I haven't. I'm just sleepy, as usual, because I don't get enough good sleep. But, no, it was interesting. To watch all the movies and then for it to result in a good movie. And basically, I mean, from what Marco had heard, this wasn't going to be good. And we really had very low expectations before we watched it. And so it was a really nice surprise to have it be as good as it was. And then putting it number one, it was no problem for either one of us. So, anyway, if we're all done now, if you like this video, please press the like button. And if you would like to be one of our subscribers to join in our discussions or make comments or disagree, whatever, please become one of our subscribers. We welcome all new subscribers with open arms. Okay? So goodbye,
Bye,
everybody.
everybody.